Hey folks, good morning. Well, this isn't something you get to do every day. Today we're trading 2 wheels for 4 wheels aboard Kawasaki's 2023 Teryx KRX 1000. This is Kawasaki Motors' latest and greatest sport UTV. So without further ado, let's throw on the helmet and go for a drive. You! All right, folks, there it is, Kawasaki's 2023 Teryx KRX 1000. This is Kawasaki's sport-oriented 2-seat UTV. Now, for the 2023 model year, Kawasaki's done a couple of little changes on this Teryx KRX 1000. We have a new steering wheel material. We have new floorboards that evacuate the mud and rain more efficiently. Those things right there. And we have ride-by-wire throttle. Now, these Teryx KRX 1000s are so neat because they allow you to experience the beauty of being outside, and you can bring a friend, a loved one, or a significant other along for the ride. You can pack a cooler, bring some sodas, bring some snacks, and see things that you would normally see if you were riding, but you can bring a friend. That's why these things are so neat. This 2023 Teryx KRX 1000 comes in at $23,200. For that, you get a 999cc parallel twin engine. Look at that engine. Look how big it is. Look at that CVT transmission housing. This thing is not just a motorcycle engine. This thing was specifically made for UTV. Look at those shocks. 21 inches of suspension travel out back and 19 inches up front. 4-wheel disc brakes. That's right, boys and girls. Disc brakes all around. 2-piston calipers up front. Single piston in the rear, and we have true 4-wheel drive with a locking front differential. This thing is made to go up and down some serious terrain that a Jeep or other 4x4 vehicle would be hard pressed to navigate. All right, folks, enough talking about this thing. Let's swing a leg in it and see what it's like to drive. Yes! All right, folks, hopping in this thing is just like hopping in an automobile. You have passenger car style doors with these awesome handles. Opens up, nice bucket seat right there. Jumping into the cockpit, close the doors, got a nice latch and a nice opening function here. These doors are high enough to keep your arms inside the cockpit, which we will talk about why it's so important here in a minute. We have a conventional automobile style 3-point harness, steering wheel, shift lever, grass brake, parking brake. Depress the brake pedal and twist the automotive style key, and away we go. All right, folks, here we are in Kawasaki's Teryx KRX 1000. This is Kawasaki Motors Corporation out of Japan. More sport-oriented 2-seat UTV. Now, the exciting news from Kawasaki is for the 2023 model year, they've introduced the KRX4 1000, which accommodates two extra passengers. So this vehicle in front of us is capable of holding 4 occupants. This vehicle rings in at $27,500, $4,300 more expensive than this base KRX 1000 2-seater. It's worth noting that even though it can hold 2 extra people, the machine only weighs 300 pounds more than this one. Pretty crazy. Almost 1,900 pounds for this 2-seat version, 2,200 pounds for the 4-seat version. We are here driving near Johnson Valley, California, at an official Kawasaki Motors Corporation USA vehicle evaluation. We are going to be riding up into the mountains over 5,000 feet near Big Bear Lake, California. There is the 2023 Teryx KRX4 1000. There is the 2-seater, another 4-seater, another 4-seater, another 2-seater. We'll let these guys go. It's going to be a little bit dusty, folks, so stay prepared for that. Now, the neat thing about these vehicles, like the Teryx KRX 1000, side by side from Kawasaki, is the ability to venture off the beaten path and be more comfortable than you would on an off-road bike or an adventure touring bike. Right here we have a bucket style seat in which our passenger can sit. We have it instead filled with all of our camera gear and GPS and all of our doodads, like this Insta360 X3 camera, so we can keep track of the ride. Now, another neat thing about vehicles like this Teryx KRX 1000 are that you operate them just like you would a normal automobile. There's over 200 million licensed drivers in the United States of America, and that really opens up a world of exploration for someone who wants to get outside, just explore the wonders of Mother Nature. Where a motorcycle, you have to have certain inherent skills like having balance, having some level of athleticism, especially on an off-road bike. These vehicles are, it's like driving a car. Very similar, at least. Now, this Teryx KRX, let's get out of the dust here. This Teryx KRX 1000 is powered by a 999cc parallel twin engine. The engine's water cooled, dual overhead camshafts, and an 8-valve cylinder head. Kawasaki rates this power plant right around 116 horsepower at the crank and right around 77 pound-feet torque. So, compared to other folks' UTVs, especially the sport UTVs, this thing isn't the fastest thing on the trail, but it sure is easy to use and easy to drive. Sorry folks, it's been a couple of weeks since we got some serious rain here in Southern California, so it's a little bit dusty. Let's let these guys get away from us for a little bit. Here, let's get this flag going so people can see us. There we go. Got our flag out. The flag was caught on this frame. Oh great, now we got some guy towing his trailer. This is gonna take forever. Back to the engine, 999cc parallel twin, water cooled. This engine is built specifically for the rigors of UTV. The engine has a rear layout, so the engine's actually located behind us and underneath us. And if you look at the engine, it's actually, for a 1-liter engine, it's huge. Like the engine case, the transmission housing, it's a very, very beefy case system. Now, the engine transfers power to the wheels via a centrifugal clutch and a CVT automatic transmission. CVT is a continuously variable transmission. It's the same type of transmission that Kawasaki's used in its brute force UTVs, in its original Teryx that debuted for the 2008 model year, and it's a very popular transmission systems that power sport manufacturers use in UTVs and scooters. Now, the whole benefit of a CVT is it allows the engine to operate at an RPM where it's producing the bulk of its power. It also gives the transmission a greater range in terms of speed. So when you accelerate from a standstill, you got some power. Yet, you know, when you're going at 60 miles per hour, the thing's not revving to the moon. Speaking of top speed, we've driven this thing before in our previous 2022 Kawasaki Teryx KRX 1000 review, and this vehicle is limited to 65 miles per hour. That's the top speed. Well, that top speed's certainly fast enough for us off-road. Realistically, the new breed of ultra high performance sport UTVs like Polaris's recently introduced RZR inline 4 powered UTV, that thing goes almost 100 miles per hour. Isn't that crazy? So if you're looking for the ultimate upper edge of performance and speed, this KRX 1000 is not it. But if you're looking for something that's easy to use and comfortable and just really well-rounded for a motorcyclist like me who wants to take a dab at off-road driving every now and then, this KRX 1000 is very good for that. All right, our ride leader, John Rawl, Kawasaki's John Rawl, is talking to the cowboy, and the cowboy has allowed us to pass on this trail. Now, the thing I really like about these Teryxes is just they're so easy to drive. Talked about how it has an automotive style steering wheel, automotive style accelerator and brake pedal. You can use either the right foot on the gas pedal and the left foot on the brake pedal like you would when you're driving, or you can do a double foot thing where you use the right foot for gas and left foot for brake. That's what I generally do on these UTVs. We have a gear position selector. Can't probably see it, but it's high, H, L, N, and R. H stands for high running gear. So H is the gear you want to have it in for forward propulsion at all vehicle speeds. Conversely, L is low range. So that is when you are traversing steep obstacles. If you're climbing really steep grades, you're rock crawling, you're going down a very steep incline or decline, or you're towing something heavy, you want to use the L setting. To use that, you have to make sure the vehicle is stopped to engage that setting. We also have neutral. Neutral is for when you just want to roll the vehicle. Let's say you need to roll around your driveway or garage without any power, or you had some kind of breakdown, you need to tow it, you want to run it in neutral. And then R is for reverse, so you can back up. We have a nice wide mirror that does a good job of showing us what is going on behind us. This particular KRX 1000 is not outfitted with Kawasaki's slick color TFT display. That is an accessory. I would absolutely opt for that accessory. We used it during our 2022 KRX 1000 review, and it's awesome. It's touchscreen compatible, has GPS navigation so you're never lost, and it is really neat. Instead, we have this rectangular shaped LCD display. We have a speedometer, which is bright and right in our face. We have the gear position. We have engine RPM, which is kind of a moot point because it's CVT, and the powertrain just deals with the shift points and the engine RPM itself. So obviously you don't really even need to have an RPM gauge, but it's there. It is a little bit hard to see. Then we have our engine coolant temperature at 172 degrees. And then we have our belt temperature, our CVT belt temperature. Now, the CVT belt temperature right now reads low, and Kawasaki has a belt temperature gauge because heat is the #1 factor that causes these CVT belts to fail. If you're into UTVs, you've probably heard horror stories about other manufacturers' CVT transmissions and how prone they are to belt failure. Well, Kawasaki has really done its homework, as it always does, with its brute force ATVs and its original Teryx, to ensure that this CVT transmission won't leave you stranded. And it's always important to make sure that that CVT belt temp is low. How do you get the CVT belt temp high, you ask? Well, that's when you're just mashing on the throttle all the time over really rough terrain and just doing a lot of start-stops, like start-stop, start-stop. That's kind of hard on the CVT. That generates heat. It's worth noting that there are intake ducts to help flow ambient air into that belt to help keep that thing cool. I generally am not a CVT transmission kind of fella. I'd much rather have a conventional gear-on-gear system like the Tuning Fork brands, manual transmission setup, and now Big Red's dual clutch transmission equipped Talon. But you can't say that Kawasaki hasn't done its homework on this CVT. It works real well. There is some annoying drone that is par for the course for CVT style transmissions, but it's not overwhelming to me. To be fair, I'm wearing earplugs. I love wearing earplugs. It just cuts down on wind noise and any other background mechanical noise. So it does cut down a little bit of the droning, but I still do hear it, but it's not excessive. This vehicle, conventional steering wheel, conventional accelerator and brake pedal, conventional mechanical shift lever type lever here. We also have tilt steering, so you can move the steering wheel up or down based on your preference. We have the steering wheel in one of its lower settings. Probably will move it down a little bit at a stop, but for now it is good. This UTV also has adjustable seat position, so we can adjust the position of the seat fore and aft. I'm 6 foot tall, about 200 pounds. I'm a big heavy guy right now, and this cockpit is roomy enough for me. Conversely, if you're a person of smaller stature, you could scoot the seat forward, and if you're taller than average, you can scoot it even further back. I have still quite a bit of range. Maybe not quite a bit, but at least another 1.5 to 2 inches of adjustment. I have the seat a little bit farther forward than its max rearward position. Now, the thing I like about this Teryx KRX1000 is just the viewport. That hood sloped very well, very nicely. It's got a nice low angle, so it's easy to see what's going on in front of you. We have a nice steel roll cage that helps protect the occupants in the event of a rollover. Of course, when you are suspecting the vehicle to be in a rollover, it's always absolutely critical to keep your hands and your limbs inside the cockpit. If you think the vehicle is going to roll over, grab a hold of the steering wheel and do not let go. Passengers should grab a hold of this and do not let go. When Yamaha first introduced its original side-by-side decades and decades ago, there were a lot of people getting injured in that vehicle due to rollovers. A lot of people getting hurt because they'd stick their limbs outside of the vehicle in the event of an accident. So always wear your safety belt, always wear a full face helmet. We are riding a dual sport motorcycle helmet. I like dual sport motorcycle helmets because they have a visor, a traditional visor, and unlike an off-road helmet with goggles, the interior of the helmet in your face is, there's no dirt, there's no debris, there's no dust. It's very quiet and comfortable, and you don't have that air moving over your face. So we recommend full face dual sport helmets for UTV driving. Yes. Now we're driving right now with the Teryx in 4-wheel drive. Whoa. 4-wheel drive, which you can activate electronically by hitting this switch on the dashboard. We're running 4-wheel drive because it just takes some of the worry out of driving. For sure, 2-wheel drive's maybe more fun for doing slides and drifting and getting nasty, but 4-wheel drive just allows for greater vehicle control. You can still do slides and drifts in 4-wheel drive. It's a little bit more difficult because the vehicle is a little bit more hooked up over the terrain. We're really rusty. We haven't operated a UTV since last time we operated a UTV. So we're taking it easy, and that is why we like to have the selectable 4-wheel drive mode engaged. Just makes this Teryx that much easier to operate for someone who doesn't drive these things all the time. Now, this Teryx also comes equipped with a locking front differential. So right now we have the rear differential is always locked, so you're always getting real 2-wheel drive. But in 4-wheel drive mode, you're not getting true 4-wheel drive. Only one wheel is really taking the power into the dirt. But if you lock the front differential, now you have true 4-wheel drive. And that's really good for rock crawling, or navigating very slippery terrain. So it's really neat that the Teryx offers true Jeep style 4-wheel drive, true OG Jeep style 4-wheel drive. If you're someone who really likes to go crazy and get into some tough terrain, you're going to want to have a locking front differential. Now there is some CVT drone, but the engine note, man, the engine note's pretty drowned out by the CVT transmission. Don't really hear much character out of the engine. It would be nice if this thing had a little bit more of a visceral sound. You got to remember, Kawasaki prides itself with visceral powertrain sounds from its Ninja sport bikes, its KX dirt bikes, you know, even its supercharged Ultra 310 jet ski. That thing sounds mean when you're on the throttle. So it would be cool if Kawasaki upped the ante in the engine sound and character department, but maybe they'll do that in future versions. I do like how smooth the power band is. You know, it's almost too smooth. Sometimes when you're driving these off-road vehicles, you know, 4 wheels or 2 wheels, you want the power band to have some hit, so you can just motor out of stuff and deep sand and things like that. This power band doesn't have any type of hit whatsoever. It's just smooth, well calibrated torque, which again just makes this thing really easy to drive. But if you're a power hungry person who wants just insane levels of performance in a vehicle that's just going to put you back in your seat and knock your socks off in terms of acceleration and thrill, I wouldn't say this vehicle does it. It's worth noting, multi-time motocross and supercross champ and the king of supercross, Jeremy McGrath. He is Kawasaki's official US ambassador. He has a Kawasaki KRX 1000, and his is outfitted with an aftermarket turbocharger. So there are aftermarket solutions to boost literally the power output of this liter-sized parallel twin. Speaking of how smooth the engine is, I really like how the engine's relatively devoid of vibration. Not a lot of vibration felt through the seat or the steering wheel. Really like the open viewing port. The 3/4 open viewing port's easy to see in your blind spot. I always like to check my blind spot real quick when I'm entering or crossing over a trail network. It's worth noting that when you're operating these vehicles, just because you're on 4 wheels and just because you have a steel cage doesn't make these vehicles any less dangerous than a motorcycle or any other power sport vehicle. So always operate the vehicle within your limits, wear the appropriate safety gear, and keep limbs inside of the vehicle at all times, and keep your eyes on the trail and pay attention. Everyone respects one another on the trail, regardless if you're on a motorcycle or a UTV. Everything will be that much better for all of us. So be respectful and operate the vehicle within your limits. If you want to improve your limits, seek professional training. There's a number of true coaching professionals in the off-road space, the road bike space, the road bike competition space. So seek a true professional and improve your skills. Who doesn't want to get better at stuff? Let's pull over here. Get out of the way, get off the trail. You! Okay, folks, here we go into this canyon. We are now going through this rocky canyon. Having the flag attached to the vehicle is nice because it gives you a little visual cue of where it's at. These UTVs are rather low slung compared to a car or truck, so a little bit of extra height in terms of the flag definitely helps these vehicles stand out on the trail. Now this KRX 1000 has pretty advanced suspension. Double wishbone front suspension with nearly 19 inches of travel. At the back we have a 4-link style rear suspension package. You can see the 4 links right there in the vehicle in front of us, offering over 21 inches of suspension travel. That is a lot of travel. For reference, a motocross bike is right around 12 inches of travel, 13 inches of travel. So these vehicles have nearly double the travel of a off-road motorcycle. Pretty neat. This terrain isn't particularly rocky. It's actually pretty sandy. There definitely are some rocks, but it's not that rocky. But the suspension is feels pretty good to me. My kidneys are intact, not being jostled around. And all in all, it's a pretty comfortable ride quality. Of course, each shock offers spring preload and damping adjustment, so if you're someone with good mechanical aptitude and vehicle dynamic handling skills, you can tailor the quality of the shocks, the action of the shocks, based on your driving preference or what you're using the Teryx KRX1000 for. You know, the neat thing about this KRX1000 is, even though it's more sporty than the existing Teryx 800, the V-twin powered Teryx 800, this is certainly more sporty than that. This still has a degree of utility built into it. So if you wanted to tow some jet skis, you know, drive this thing around the farm to do errands and still have a bit of fun, you can absolutely do that with this vehicle. And that's really where it slots in. It slots in for the person who wants a sporty UTV but doesn't want to give up utility function. I think that's neat. Let this gentleman get a little farther ahead of us here, get some of the dust out of here. So in lieu of that big awesome color TFT display, we have this box, this empty box. You could fit a stereo or a GPS or any other kind of doodads. We also have this little storage compartment where we can put our rags we use to clean the lens of the camera and our visor at a stop. We also have this glove box, which houses some water and some snacks. There's also a nice cup holder here. Right now we have a radio in here. Nice cup holder for bottles of water. Just dropped our radio. That wasn't awesome. Let's turn this vehicle off.
Can you click that light button down there? Half a click.
Which, this one?
Yeah, up. Yep, there you go.
What was that do?
Rear lights back here.
They were on.
Yeah, then you can see through the dust. See all those top
Thanks,
lights?
bro.
Yeah.
That's stock feature?
No, accessory.
Okay. This vehicle has an accessory rear light package. This means the rear lights are on. This is off. We had them on, so we were blinding that gentleman in front of us. We turned them on. Now, to park this vehicle, since there's no parking mode like a traditional car, you leave it in H, you apply the cable actuated parking brake right here, and you turn the engine off with this automotive style or old school automotive style keyed ignition. Here is the key for this KRX 1000. Kawasaki, you guys need to do better. This key looks like it's out of a KLX 110. This is a $22,000+ vehicle. We need to see a better key. We'd love to see a key with that new fancy Rivermark logo that Kawasaki Motors Corporation now campaigns. Let's put the key out. All right, folks, we'll check in with you in a little bit here. All right, guys, here we go. Start our vehicle. To start it, you twist the key, hit the brake, hold the brake. So put it into H, release the parking brake. John Rawls freaking out because he wants us to go fast, but nothing happens fast when you're with me. Thanks, pal. I mistakenly spoke. This mirror is an accessory. This is an OE accessory, as is the color matched roof here we have, and the rear bumper, and the accessory spare tire that has the tie down, holding it down. We will show that to you guys here in a little bit. Alright folks, that was a photo pass. We do the photo passes so we can get nice, tasty visual content for all of our readers and watchers out there in the United States. We are waiting for the rest of the group, and then we will continue our off-road adventure. There is a clean shot of the dash, gear position, engine RPM, drive mode selector, 4-wheel drive, power, engine power. So there's a high and a low engine power mode. So full power gives you full access to the claimed 116 ponies. Low power mode is good for, let's say you had a 16-year-old and you were teaching them how to operate this vehicle. Someone 16 or over. I'm sorry, someone who's 17 and over. You have to be 17 and over to operate this vehicle. And if you wanted to teach them, you could put it in the low power setting, and that will help them get a feel for the engine power and the handling of this vehicle in a safer way. It's really neat. A lot of the street bikes for the last 15 years now have had adjustable engine power modes. Suzuki was, I believe, the innovator with its GSX-R 600 and 750 so many years ago. I'm sorry, the GSX-R 1000. I think in 2007 that bike had that. 2007 or 2008 had adjustable engine power modes. And I love that feature because it allows people to get acclimated to the power band of a vehicle in a safer way. And we are all about safety, and we are all about fun. Safety and fun are paramount features of our paramount ethos for us. So that's why having that adjustable power mode is so awesome. All right, folks, we'll check in with you in a little bit. All right, folks, another notable model year change for 2023. There's a couple of them. This steering wheel material is new for 2023. I like it. I like these cutouts here you have for 10 and 2 driving. You can also drive the vehicle very comfortably in a more aggressive 9 and 3 position with your thumbs up. This vehicle also has new cutouts for when you have mud and water, the clean out under in the floorboards here and there. That is new. That allows you to evacuate dirt, mud, and debris in a more efficient way. And perhaps the biggest change to this vehicle for 2023 MY is ride-by-wire throttle. There is now no mechanical connection between the accelerator and the throttle bodies. This vehicle now has ride-by-wire, much like many of Kawasaki's modern street bikes. It's funny because unless they told me it had ride-by-wire, I wouldn't even have known, because the throttle response feels identical to last year's. It's fairly responsive. Of course, it's not uber responsive. We talked about how the engine doesn't have a ton of power. Because it doesn't have a ton of power, the throttle response is pretty reserved still. I like that it's so easy to use. When you hit the accelerator, the thing doesn't come flying out of your hands. It's a very easy, we say it all the time, it's a very easy vehicle to operate. Ease of use and comfort are certainly hallmark features of this Teryx KRX 1000. Okay, folks, here we go. Now, when you lock the front differential, this is an electronic locking front differential. So it used to be a mechanical At least it was back in the old days with the old Teryx 800. Now it is electronic. Another electronic doodad in this vehicle is the electronic power steering. So power steering on this vehicle is electronic. Works really nice. You don't need to be a very strong human to turn the steering wheel. There's a high level of assist. Yet even with the electronic assist, sometimes with electronic power steering you'll have a real vague steering feel because there isn't that hydraulic mechanical connection. Well, this steering feel on this UTV is decent. It's not good, at least compared to an automobile, but it's not bad either. It's decent. So if you're a person who really lives and dies by handling feel, you're not going to have a ton of handling feel, but it's not terrible at the same time. Look at that range of adjustment. A lot of range of adjustment in the steering wheel. Let's put it right here like that. You can see where I'm going very nicely. And away we go, folks. Now, the 1 liter parallel twin engine drinks from a 10.6 gallon fuel tank. So you have decent range in this UTV. In getting out and exploring, bringing a friend, bringing a significant other, bringing a cooler filled with sodas, some snacks, or even your Labrador dog, as one of our proven purchasing US audience members said in our previous Teryx 4x4 video, said, all right, let's do some rock crawling, folks. We are rock crawling. Yes, PG rated rock crawling. Look at the water. Look at the ice. There's ice. This vehicle also employs nearly 15 inches of ground clearance. So getting over these type of obstacles isn't a big deal. Look at that 4-link suspension in action. You can see it right there in front of us. We're just throwing water off those 31-inch bead lock tires by Maxxis. Yes, this vehicle rolls on 31-inch bead lock 8-ply Maxxis tires mounted on 15-inch wheels. So not only the wheels very functional, but they look cool too. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, she just trucks up whatever. Of course, a popular accessory for these UTVs are windshields. We generally, at least in Southern California, don't really want a windshield because all it's going to do is get hard to see with dust. And the weather here is fairly temperate, doesn't get super cold. So you don't really need a windshield. But if you're somewhere where it's cold and it rains a lot, snows a lot, having a windshield would be a handy accessory. Dang it, I forgot to turn my 360 camera on. Right, let's engage it. Get some nice 360 video content for all of you folks that are interested in purchasing or learning more about a four-wheeled vehicle like Kawasaki's Teryx KRX 1000. Yes, ruts. I love ruts. Now, railing ruts is definitely a different sensation than on a dirt bike, but it's still fun, especially in four-wheel drive. You can feel those front meats just dig in and helping pull the vehicle out of the sand. The sand's not
excessively deep here, but there definitely is some loose sand, and having four-wheel drive just helps the vehicle crawl out of that, but also makes for some really nice ruts when everyone is staying in the ruts and powering out in four-wheel drive. Right here's some more little rocks. Teryx, and it's 19 inches up front, 21-inch rear suspension, does a good job of gobbling it up. We mistakenly spoke. The suspension in this base Teryx is limited to spring preload adjustment on all four corners and compression damping adjustment. There is no rebound damping adjustment, so you can't control the return action of the shock, only the compression action. There's these big adjustment knobs that make it, whoa, let's get back here. There's some big adjustment knobs that make it easy to operate. All right, we are not going to use the locking front differential because we should be able to tackle this obstacle without it, as we did. See, our front tire is going to hit that rock. Oh, we missed it. Very nice. Now, the steering radius on this vehicle, it's fairly maneuverable. It doesn't take a exceptionally ton of distance to turn this vehicle around or do tight maneuvers in limited space, which is nice. Again, the electronic power steering just makes for a very light steering feel. Caveat is steering feel is a tad vague. It's not as vague as other machines we've tested. Obviously, it's been 5, 6, 7, 8, a decade since we've ridden other machines with electronic power steering, but it does offer adequate steering feel. Phew! God, it's like you're driving like a little mini trophy truck, just at 1/5 the speed, which is plenty good for me. With age comes a cage, and it's nice not having to ride a motorcycle at 60 miles per hour over this stuff. My knees certainly thank me, I know that. Alright, those guys are boning out. Brakes. 4-wheel hydraulic disc brakes on this vehicle. The front brakes employ twin piston calipers, so each wheel gets a twin piston caliper up front. At the rear there is single piston brake caliper, so each wheel gets a single piston caliper out back. So four-wheel disc brakes. I think the rotor diameter size is right around 260 millimeters. And I like the brakes on this thing. They have adequate response. They're not as sharp as a modern automobile, but they're also not spongy like they used to be on the old Teryxes or other older style UTVs. They have a decent amount of response when you press down on that left pedal. Of course, because this is a non-street legal off-road vehicle, there is no ABS. Brakes are a full manual experience. If you slam on the brake pedal, you will lock up the brakes. Woo! We were racing against that new for 2023 KRX4 1000, the 4-seat version. Once again, $4,300 more expensive than this $23,200 2-seat version, 4-seat KRX. It's great for someone who has a family. You got a wife or a husband, got a couple kids, a couple friends, and you can bring up to 4 people in that vehicle with comfort. If you look at the rear passenger accommodations, there's quite a bit of space back there, so you don't just have to be a smaller than average human to fit in the rear cabin. Really neat. I know if I had a family, I would definitely want to get a 4-seat version because it just allows your whole family to experience the thrill of the outdoors and experience the thrill of power sport operation. Motorcycles are awesome and all, but you got to have a bunch to bring the family. Everyone's got to have a decent level of ability to get to these faraway zones. With a 4-seat UTV, everyone can come. And we are all about inclusiveness and letting everyone experience the thrill of riding and driving. Now this Teryx KRX 1000, it measures 68 inches in terms of width. So it's a little bit wider than the original Teryx 800. That extra bit of width helps boost stability. And helps mitigate rollover. Of course, the long travel UTVs, ultra hyper sport UTVs are all 72-inch width now. So while the narrow cars are all 64-inch. So this 68-inch width literally splits the two together. Splits the two. So you have the ability to have more stability, but this Teryx KRX 1000 isn't going to take up a lot of real estate on this trail. We're riding in the SoCal Des, so there's a lot of space here, but you have to remember in other parts of the country, in the Pacific Northwest, in the Midwest and East Coast, trails are a lot more narrow, and having a narrow vehicle that fits on these trails is paramount. That's why I really like the original Teryx 800, because that thing is so narrow, you can literally drive it on ATV trails. Obviously, ATVs used to be super popular. Fast forward to the 2023 calendar year, ATVs are but a fraction of their former glory. Basically, UTVs took over the ATV segment. But the problem with these UTVs, not so much with this one, but the ultra sport ones, is they're so wide. You know, the long travel, high performance ones, you can't operate those things in the Pacific Northwest and the East Coast or on trails. They're too wide, they're too big. Where this KRX 1000 gives you a little bit of that sport performance in a more manageable and versatile package. Look at the beautiful cactuses. So awesome. Look at the snow on the ridge. There is no thermometer, oddly enough, on this gauge. At least I don't see one. But it's got to be right around 50 degrees, 55 degrees. This cockpit does a good job of shielding the rider from the elements, especially in the lower extremities. We don't necessarily feel any engine heat. You don't feel any engine heat here in the floorboard area, yet because it's enclosed, your bottom half will stay relatively warm just because there's not a lot of air rushing around it. That's one of the benefits of having a mid or rear engine design, is you're not going to have engine heat being thrown off onto you in the cabin. Also, on an engineering standpoint, having that engine located low and toward the back is just really good for the center of gravity of this vehicle. It just helps it be stable and helps mitigate rollovers. Oh, it's getting dusty. still on? Turn this off. Oh yeah, it is. Alright, she's off now. Alright, maintenance on this vehicle. Now, after your initial break-in service, this vehicle requires engine oil changes every 20 hours. Engine oil filters need to be made once a year. So you can change the oil after 20 hours, but you don't really have to drop or replace the filter. Engine oil every 20 hours or 6 months. Engine oil filter every year. Realistically, if it was our vehicle, the engine oil filter is so easy to get at, we would replace the engine oil filter as well. Valve inspection interval, 200 hours. This vehicle can go 200 hours between valve inspection. It's pretty neat. Kawasaki also recommends replacing the transmission oil and the diff oil at 20-hour increments too. So 20-hour increments for fluids, 200 hours for valve inspection, and a whopping 400 hours for the fuel filter. Isn't that crazy? 400 hours for the fuel filter. Of course, because you're operating these vehicles usually in very dusty environments, it's always good to pay attention to the air filter. Make sure that thing isn't all boogered up. I forget what Kawasaki recommends. I think it's 20 to 40 hours. But that again just depends on how you're operating the vehicle. If you're operating it in a dust cloud, tailgating your guys in front of you like me, air filters are going to get dirty fast. If you're driving by yourself in clean air, the air filter isn't going to get dirty for a very, very long time. So, owner and user beware. Now, a fun fact about these Teryx KRX 1000s are these vehicles are built in the United States. Yes, Kawasaki manufactures these things in Lincoln, Nebraska. They have had U.S. manufacturing in Lincoln, Nebraska since the mid-70s. So for over 40 years, Kawasaki has been manufacturing many of its ATVs, PWCs, jet skis, and now UTVs at its Lincoln, Nebraska factory. How neat is that? Kawasaki, out of its manufacturing plant in Nebraska, is they also make subway cars for the New York subway. They actually make the cars that passengers ride in New York. How neat is that? They also, I don't know if it's still happening, but they also were an OEM wheel supplier for other power sport manufacturers and other UTV manufacturers. So when it comes to manufacturing, Kawasaki sets itself apart from the competition. Overall build quality for a UTV is pretty good. These things are put together very well. The welds and the assembly of these vehicles, you know, it's not going to be as put together as well as a Ninja ZX-10R, but for $23,200 and for the UTV segment, these things are put together pretty well. They're put together so well that Kawasaki stands behind its product with a 6-month warranty. They also offer extended warranty plans for riders seeking extra protection from mishaps. Pretty neat. Alright folks, we're gonna put the power down and do some more driving. We'll check in with you folks in a little bit. Alright folks, here we are navigating up this steep, rutted out incline. We are in four-wheel drive high mode. Now, to use the low range, you gotta be on steep terrain, steep inclines or declines, or crazy rocks, or towing. If you're towing or have a heavy load, low range will get you going. We haven't used the electronically locking front differential yet. To be fair, even with the open front diff, this thing wheels really well. You got to be in some pretty extreme terrain to warrant the use of the locking front differential, but we hope to try it out here soon. In fact, let's try it right now. Screw it. Lock, engage. It is now on, and we have true four-wheel drive. True four-wheel drive, folks. It'll be interesting to see how it affects the steering feel. Oh, I'm so happy I have locking for four-wheel drive right now. It is getting rocky. Whoa. How neat is that? We are motoring right up these obstacles. As you can see, this thing has such a generous ground clearance. You can just get right up and over these obstacles. It's unbelievable. Wow, this is so awesome. All right, we got the 360 cam rolling now. We should have been rolling earlier. Now we're rolling. Whoa, this is so gnarly. And the Teryx motor's right up it. I'm certainly happy I enabled the front locking rear front differential when we did, because who knew that we were gonna face such steep obstacles. It's interesting because even though that true four-wheel drive's engaged right now, it hasn't affected the steering that much. I feel a little bit of the steering is a little bit heavier, marginally. When I say heavier, like 10% heavier than it was, which was extremely light. But so far, you can't feel that much increase in the weighted effect of the steering wheel. Now, if you have gadgets and creature comforts, we have one 12-volt power socket right here. The front bumper also has auxiliary wiring, so if you get a winch or if you get some added lights, it's really easy to plug them into a power source. Kawasaki already did a lot of the homework for you. Oh, look at this, we're in snow now. Yeah, they say it never snows in California. Look at this. Woo! Oh yeah, we're wheeling now. Now, if you were on an off-road motorcycle or a dirt bike, this terrain would be fairly easy to get up this two-track terrain, but you'd never be as comfortable. You were sitting in a chair for, you're never going to be as comfortable as you will in a UTV. We have all of our drinks and snacks and camera gear. That's one of the biggest issues I personally run into when I'm motorcycle riding off-road or riding adventure touring bikes off-road is I don't have enough room to bring all my cameras and my doodads. A lot of folks forget, but to bring our proven purchasing US audience, the premium 4K content and premium written content, I have to bring a lot of camera equipment with me. And when I'm driving a vehicle with virtually unlimited space, at least compared to a motorcycle, it is a lot more friendly for bringing stuff with you and still having fun. Yo! Just let these guys get a little ahead of us. Look at the rubber left on the rocks from all the vehicles driving up this thing. Alright folks, looks like we're out of the rocks. We will check in with you in a little bit if something really exciting happens.
Let's take a look under the fake engine hood compartment. This is where the radiator is, and that is where you adjust the compression damping of the forward shocks. Of course, the engine is located at the rear of the vehicle, where it is positioned nice and low to help improve stability.
Well folks, that was a fun morning spent behind the wheel of Kawasaki's 2023 Teryx KRX 1000 Sport UTV. Really enjoy operating this vehicle. It's really easy to drive, nice smooth power, rides really smoothly, suspension gobbles up the rough stuff and delivers you to where you need to be in a comfortable way. Sure, it's not the fastest UTV out there, but the performance is enough to put a smile on your face, and in the end, these things are about bringing you and your favorite person out into Mother Nature and seeing what's out there. And for $23,200, it does that really well. It also opens up the world to someone who maybe is not perhaps into motorcycling yet, but you get one of these things, you're like, oh my god, how much cooler it'd be on two wheels, or even vice versa. For being a modern motorcyclist, a sport UTV like Kawasaki's Teryx really works into my motorsport portfolio and fills one of the gaps I'd have as a motorcyclist. Of course, I do wish this instrument panel was larger. Doesn't necessarily have to be color, but it's definitely way too small. I also wish that this machine was fitted with that up-spec color TFT display with that awesome GPS navigation, but at least it's available as an accessory. I would definitely splurge for that. It'd also be nice if there was a couple more USB charging ports. Of course, that 12-volt power plug's great. You can put a USB style adapter in there to charge gadgets, but more gadget charging is always good in my book. Alright folks, we're going to finish up our drive and we will wrap things up. Give her the beans!
Well folks, that was a fun morning trading two wheels for four wheels in the cockpit of Kawasaki's Teryx KRX 1000. For $23,200, this thing is pretty boss. I love that you can go off-roading and be comfortable and bring a friend with you and bring your snacks and drinks and all your camera accoutrement, which I always roll with. I like how this thing handles. It really takes you to places that, you know, normally you couldn't get to. You'd have to have a dirt bike and you have to be competent on a dirt bike. This thing is easy to operate as a passenger vehicle, more or less. Obviously, you still need to have some understanding of terrain and understand the ability of the vehicle and how to maneuver vehicles over on terrain that has different camber, uphills, downhills, but still, you get the idea. These things are a lot easier to drive than it is to ride a motorcycle off-road. All right, folks, as usual, make sure to surf on over to motorcyclistonline.com. That is where all of our written content comes to life. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs it down if you don't. Make sure to sound off in the comment section. We can't wait to digest all of the comments. Remember, anything that you guys say, good or bad, we want to make this an inclusive community for modern motorcyclists who like to operate all kinds of motorcycles and power sports vehicles. So sound off. And thanks for driving with us today. We'll see you next time. Well, John, it wouldn't be a proper adventure without a little bit of drama, right?
Yeah, that's for sure. I wasn't the drama then.
It was me, sorry. Just joking, it wasn't me.